So we just started recording. If you are joining us on recording, we welcome you to Colorado Career Connectors. And today we're going to talk about the future of work. Some of it's going to be based on soft skills. Some of it's going to be based on what happens if you have a visible or invisible disability. There are thousands of people applying to jobs now. How do you make yourself a candidate of choice in those times? How do we get through the ATS? So we're going to bring all of those things to you. Happy to have you all here. Please, again, put your information in the chat if you are new. I'm Chelle Johnson. I am a fractional chief talent officer, which means I'm also a recruiter. I work with small companies that are scaling. And right now I'm working with two businesses that are global. I have opportunities in Australia, Canada, and the US, mostly around solution consultants for timekeeping and attendance with Kronos or United Kronos Group, if you know them. I own Colorado Career Connectors, but I'm also a career coach. I have some clients that are here today. And so you're going to get it from the recruitment side, but then also from an executive career coaching side, which means that I wear both hats. Joining me today is Yvette Bell. She is my director of operations, and she'll be watching the chat. We also would like to make sure that you subscribe to get our newsletters. We send news and updates. We send information on what's going on in the community, because we believe that there is enough space in the Colorado community. We provide information on other networks like BoulderNet, or if you are looking for a success team or a job club, or if you just need to know the best websites to leverage in the Colorado area, there's this area on that as well. So here's our QR code and coloradocareerconnectors.org. Please take a look at our website and let others that you know that are looking for professional development, and then also any type of assistance. We've done over 48 events, around 50 events. We have recaps of those videos on our YouTube page. Here's what we have coming up. This has been a really busy month, and because there is so much going on in the job market or in the workforce, I personally will be speaking with Emily Aries, who owns Bossed Up, and she and I are going to get together live on May 31st from 4:30 to 6:30. This will be downtown near the ballpark. Also, I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to decrease your stress and burnout. And I have an info session on June 5th to talk about positive intelligence. Yvette will be putting more information in the chat regarding those events. Joining me today to talk about the future of work is a friend of mine and one badass technical recruiter at Samsara. MJ has been on panels with me with Second Act Women, but she's a friend, and she's been on our panel. This is her third time. She is an amazing leader with experience at Amazon and now Samsara. Samsara is a IoT data company, and she can tell us more about that in just a moment. But someone who I know that we will be in each other's community. I'd like to introduce to you Peter Hancock. Peter is the president of Professional Employment Group of Colorado. He is on the board for the Arapahoe Douglas Workforce Development Center. Just gave a keynote to Denver Advisory Group, and is a sought after and subject matter expert on everything dealing with work. So Peter and MJ, we're so blessed to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. Names going on. Hybrid to remote to quiet quitting, quiet hiring. We're through the Great Resignation. And tech companies like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google and other tech companies have had huge layoffs. So my question I'm going to start with MJ on this one, is how can a candidate or how can our audience make themselves stand out from other applicants?
Well, the economy that we find ourselves in right now is such that every single company has their ability to cherry pick candidates. We're getting thousands of applications. Large companies have been doing layoffs. And so, quite frankly, we can hire candidates today that we wouldn't have been able to hire a year ago. And so there are certain things that our companies and our recruitment teams and our leadership teams are really thinking about. And what that comes down to is diversity. Every company in the entire world would really like to say that they have a diverse internal employee staff, they have diversity in thought, because when you put a lot of people into a room who come from very different backgrounds, have different ways of thinking about things, they're going to have different ways to problem solve. And when they have those different ways to problem solve, they're going to come up with a solution to a problem that a group of people that didn't have those brains couldn't have come up with. And so knowing that companies have their cherry pick of candidates right now, put the things on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile that make you a diverse candidate or bring some diversity in thought. So that can be racially diverse, whether you are African American, Black, Latino, Latina, whether you are female. There are a lot of different kinds of aspects of diversity. Make sure it's on your profile, because as a recruiter, I'm specifically doing keyword searches for that. The other thing is that a lot of people have been laid off for a long time. And so a lot of companies are doing free upskilling, free certifications, free classes. And I highly recommend that you do these things. You can go to LinkedIn Learning and take a look at what kinds of certifications are free right now. A lot of companies are offering PMPs, COPCs, a lot of certifications that typically cost a lot of money for free. And so when you are applying with all of these other candidates, those things are going to set you apart. And it's going to be a really good story of what have you been doing with your brain since you were laid off that's helping to keep you sharp. And it didn't cost you any money. And so those are the kinds of things that I would recommend that you are putting on your LinkedIn profile and putting on your resume and going out and seeking.
And Jay, I just want to follow up on that one, because I saw some furrowed foreheads on when you were saying put if you are Latina or African American. There's a lot of politics around that, and people who may put a diversity piece out there. Can you, at some point today, talk through that and why people should have confidence to put, next month is Pride Month. Should they put LGBTQIA friendly or ally? If they're white males, should they put that out there? So I just want to delve into that a little bit more. And Peter, also I'd love to hear from you on that.
I think she wants to hear from you now, Peter.
Okay. I was going to give you the floor on that one first. Thank you. And thanks for everyone being here today. That is a great question. And I will say it has different caveats to it, because it depends on which company you're applying to. If you're applying to a company that's on their Facebook page or on their LinkedIn page, like I'll just use the LGBT friendly people easily, you see them talking about that. You want to talk about how you're, supporting that community or something too. I think you want to use what is there to leverage to your positive, but it's also recruiting, and part of being recruiting, like things will be used against you, sadly enough, where some companies, if they're not friendly or something like that, will hold it against people, which is not fair, but that's something that is out there in the industry. But that's where I try to really connect and tell people to look at the company's social media pages, see what they're talking about. If they have a lot of pro different diversity, pro different backgrounds of, how they look at DE&I, just very different levels. That's something that's going to hit a hot button with them, but do your homework, because the worst thing you can do is put something out there that really is not received well and may just land very flat or be a negative, but it could highly increase your chances if you're doing it right. And you really see what they're posting on their LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, because that's how companies want to show that it's their advertising platform to say, here we are. Do you like us? And I always say recruiting is a two-way street. Like, companies are better now than ever because of all the social media, because yes, you can put fake stuff out there, but good companies are putting what they stand for, what they're involving. So how you can connect with that, I think, is very important.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm going to touch on that really quickly. I think that we should always be truthful and authentic, right? And so don't put something out there if it isn't true. And I think that if you put something out there that is true and a company doesn't like it, I think that's okay. I think don't go and work for that company then, right? If you are putting your authentic self out there, that's why it's really important not to put things out there that aren't true. But if you're being authentic online, I think that the right people will take notice.
I love that, MJ. Thank you. Let's get back to the actual question. Peter, from your perspective, how can our audience make themselves stand out from other applicants?
MJ was right on earlier when she was talking about what are you doing on your own to always improve your knowledge. And that is something I hear in the industry constantly is people saying, well, I don't have the ability to go to educate. I don't have the money to go back. Well, and she was right on by saying there's so many free classes and resources out there that are out there with YouTube. There's more information. I mean, I agree with her with LinkedIn, and with just so many community groups offering little boot camps or little certifications. It shows that you're willing to are real to want to learn and want to be great students, because that's how they're going to be competitive in this market. And if you're showing day one, you're learning it's a huge plus in your sort of feather in your cap, and it really helps you stand out, just because change is the only constant right now, and showing that you want to learn and you want to grow and you want to help that company progress is, I think, one of the best things you can show, and how you take charge of that and now make people to sort of ask you to change. You're wanting to lead by example.
Great. I love that. Thank you. From a tactical perspective, my recommendation is that you make sure that your LinkedIn page is leveraged and optimized to the fullest potential. Lisa Carmen is on our call today. She is one of 2 resume writers and LinkedIn optimizers I use. I cannot even tell you how important that is, because recruiters are going to look at your LinkedIn page. MJ was stating, put out there, for example, on diversity allies. I am a diversity ally. I put se habla español because I do speak Spanish. Put things out there that make you unique. In the past, I had Zumba instructor because it was a conversation starter. Several of my clients, one was an Olympic equestrian rider, another was a cyclist, another is a triathlete. So what makes you special, or what makes you different? Like if you love cooking, or historical cooking, something out there interesting like that. The other piece that's really important is these companies can cherry pick. So as a recruiter, yes, I post things, and MJ can give you this example. When I'm posting, I'm not really looking at the applicants who have applied. I'm going in and I'm using Sales Navigator, or I'm using my sourcing team in India to source on specific key words. So you have to make sure that you are and we could do a whole session on just that point alone. But MJ, do you want to give an idea of when you post a position, how many applicants do you actually get? And then what's your process for that?
So I've opened up 2 roles last week, and over the weekend for one of the positions, I got 1,700 applications. For another position, I got 500 applications. And I went in and I ran an X-ray search, And one of the basic qualifications for the role is a college degree. 95% of the people who applied didn't have that, or they didn't have it on their resume. And so if I didn't have the tools to go in and optimize my sourcing, even in my internal database, I could spend hours upon hours upon hours reading through resumes and applications. And so I'm using keyword searches even for people that apply. And so it's really important. I will always preach quality over quantity. If you are going to, I would say apply to 10 roles, not 100. And in those 10 roles, customize your resume to that job description. Find keywords in that job description and put them in your resume. If there's a basic qualification of a college degree and you have one, put it at the top of your resume. If there are location basic qualifications, make sure you're putting that in your resume, because I'm scanning those things. And so if you take all the time to do that, you can do that for 10 jobs, but you probably can't do that for 100 jobs in the time and space of things. And so find these 10 jobs that you're really passionate about, then go to those companies' websites on LinkedIn, find out who their recruiters are, see if you're connected to them, see if you have first connections that work for that company, and those people might be able to refer you. And there are all different kinds of things that you can do to get in front of me and to get my attention, but it takes intentionality and quality over quantity, because you just can't do all of those things for hundreds of applications.
Awesome. I'm going to go to the next question here, because we've actually had it in the chat already. How do I be my authentic self if I have a visible or invisible disability? Peter, I'm going to ask you to start with this one, please.
Great question. So I will, I have a license of my invisible disabilities. I'm part of the Invisible Disability Association, and it's something that I hid for the first 19 years of my career. I never spoke about it. I just worked twice as hard, so no one ever found out about it. But I finally was like, okay, I have to talk about this. And that's how I have a recruiting company of a bunch of people that we got our DVE certification. And it was because of my disabilities that I had to become out there and share this, because I was hard. It was very embarrassing. I thought about it, but then it was the most eye-opening thing to share with leaders and groups. And you realize how many people have invisible disabilities. And I always will say, I will hire people with different disabilities because I like them because they think differently. People that think outside the box are some of the best recruiters, but they're also the best workers in a lot of different industries. And that is something that has changed in the industry. And I think people are much more aware of it, and it's become much more of a norm. But not being ashamed of it and saying it out there, because it really does, your authentic portion, or MJ was talking about this, you can't hide who you are who you are. And if a company's not going to like you for that, shame on them. I mean, there's parts of corporate America I didn't fit in well because I didn't fit in the box, and it drove me crazy. And that's why 4.5 years ago I started my own company, and we've done really well. But I haven't been afraid to share these things. But I'll tell you, I was scared as crap because I had to go to a bunch of the boards I chair, and I was like, what are these people going to think? Like, I lead these companies and these big organizations. What are they going to think if I have to admit this? And they were beyond accepting, and it opened up more doors than I ever thought could open. And I want to share that with you, because I think so many times we think the worst. And what if I share this, and what is something I think negative about it? But the world is open to more diverse thought than ever before, and they're embracing diverse thought. And if you look at some of the best leaders and the best people out there, and you start to get to know them, they're all a little bit different. None of them fit in the box perfectly. So I will give you that 2 cents. And I think you just have to be your authentic self, and people are going to accept you for you are and love you for it, or it's not the right organization for you.
We have a question of, how do you define invisible disability? Kim and others, when I looked at this, I realized I have 3. And I never really started talking about it either. In fact, I almost started crying when we were in the run a show. I have ADHD, I have Hashimoto's, and I have severe anxiety. So I have led talent for Fortune 50 companies. It's like Peter said, we're able to do more because we're used to it, right? MJ, what do you want to add to this?
I think that one thing that you don't know is that in every single interview debrief that I have sat in, what the interview team is trying to figure out are two things. Is this person going to up-level the team? And are they going to do that through some kind of diversity in thought? And diversity in thought can come from a lot of different areas, but an invisible or visible disability often makes somebody very diverse than other people on their team. So a couple of things. I also have severe anxiety. I am on the autism spectrum and I am legally deaf. Now, these things make me really, really good at what I do because I think about things differently than other people in my seat. And I am who I am. And so I am very upfront with these things about me to a recruiter. I'm upfront about them in the interview panel. And I'm upfront because they're important to me. And I want to work at a place that's going to tolerate and celebrate and allow for these particular aspects of my brain. And so I say things like, because I'm on the autism spectrum, I have the ability to solve problems and think about things, to see things that people who are not on the spectrum don't see. And here are some examples of how I have done that, the impact that I have made to my team or to my company, the problems that I have solved. So be your authentic self and put it out there, and be prepared to say, because of this, I have contributed this, I have solved this problem, I have made this impact. You don't just put it out there in the same way you don't just put your skills out there, right? You don't just say, I'm really great at typing. Great, who cares? I'm really great at typing, and so I can transcribe things in a way that other people can't, right? I am this, and I have used this to produce this, which has impacted my team or my company in this way. I have solved XYZ problem. The more that you are willing to talk about these things, the more space and visibility you give to other people around you. And you might actually find that you're in really good company. And if you're in an interview and they aren't tolerant of these things, you don't want to work there.
So there you have it. We hope that you're able to get yourself out there more. As you can see, we're pretty successful, and we know that you can be too. And we really hope that that motivates you to be your authentic self. Thank you, MJ. Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate that so much. Okay. What industries are hiring now, and which have the best long-term stability? I was speaking at BoulderNet last week, and the audience had some really good input. So I would like to reach out to the audience for their input on this one, and then we will fill in the gaps and provide more insight for you. So let's hear from the audience on this one. When you're out there looking for a position, what are you seeing that are bleeding edge skills that are needed right now, or companies or industries that are stable? What are you all looking at? You don't have to raise your hand, just come on.
I've seen a lot of them who want skills with several of the new platforms for customer service and connecting the SaaS platforms.
Awesome. New CRM systems, new customer support systems. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Who else wants to chime in?
I see a lot of openings for recruiters. and for HR, but I guess that's kind of like where I'm looking anyway. But all of them want experience, but I do see that.
Thank you. We know a lot of people in the market right now, so send them over to us. That's awesome. Anyone else want to chime in on what you're seeing or noticing? Okay, Peter, from your perspective, what are your recruitment groups looking for? And as a member on several boards, what are you seeing out there?
First, I wish I had MJ's issue of that many candidates. I'm jealous of that. So within my company, we have 4 or 5 different sectors. Our engineering and IT sector has stayed very strong through this. We're still seeing our technical sectors stay strong. The hardest part is the entry level right now. They're looking for any mid-senior level. But civil, mechanical, electrical is open field right now, and anything on the IT and the development systems network, we've seen incredibly strong. On our healthcare sector, nursing, anything with healthcare support has stayed very strong, and I see that continuing. And then within skilled trade and our manufacturing sector stayed very strong. And those last couple of sectors I mentioned, just like skilled trade, engineering, manufacturing, healthcare, the problem there where you're seeing a lot of it, you have an older retirement age. The average age of those sectors are 50 plus. And that is something where they need more people to enter the workforce or just enter that field desperately, because people are either retiring or leaving, and they need more individuals of any age to enter those sectors to supply the sort of supply versus demand to even out. But in Denver right now, there's over 20,000 technical openings in the Front Range. So there is abundance of need. We're still seeing that continue to grow, and even with layoffs and changes like that, it's the technical roles or specific roles, they are staying very strong. And we have not seen traditional hiring season starts like to get busier this time of year. And sure enough, even with interest rates increasing, there's still an increase in hiring. It has not slowed down. People are being picky. We're not seeing the wage increase as much from job to job transfer. But those are the sectors I would say are hiring, and they have stability, just because no matter what, those sectors need people.
Thank you. MJ, what about from your perspective?
Think about what's going to happen in this country in the next 100 years. And those are the types of positions, in my experience, that are really hot right now. So always healthcare, always engineering, but think about green energy, sustainability. Think about all of the positions that go into companies like that, project managers, people who have to make sure that the projects are moving forward and that they're on track, right? So you can work in a really, really technical field and not need to be technical. They need consultants, they need project managers, they need quality managers, they need all of those things. Food, we as Americans have gotten incredibly aware of the food that we are eating and how horrible it is for our bodies. And so there are a ton of careers in food, in agricultural, in sustainable farming, in organic anything. And remember that every single industry has a niche, but it needs all of the regular roles that every company needs. So if you are a project manager, if you are a program manager, if you are an engineer, if you are a support specialist, you don't necessarily need to change your role or the things that you provide, but you need to change the industries that you're going after, because there's a huge disconnect. We have these emerging industries who cannot hire people, and we have all of these people who cannot find a job, and it's just that we're not connecting the dots. And so I would take a look at, I would specifically look for careers in green energy, in sustainability, in organic food growth, in healthcare, in anything that will be around for the next 100 years. And that's how I'm always positioning my career. What's happening now and what will be happening in the next 100 years. Those are the industries that are not going to fly away by night.
Awesome. Thank you. I also want to add data analytics anything that you're doing with big data, AI, machine learning, frontline jobs are becoming much more technologically focused. Advanced manufacturing. I started that program at Lockheed Martin, right? So when Peter and MJ and I were talking about this, we were talking about if you are not leveraging the free upskilling opportunities and all of the things to upskill, the three things that we really focused on were you got to have the grit, because now things are going to continue to change every 6 months, just like technology does. You cannot stay stagnant as an applicant. It's scary. And that's where fear might come in. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we continue. But Gen X, Gen Zs that are getting out of school, they can do technology. Find a new college grad and have them mentor you on some new technologies, right? All of us have to do that. And ageism is real. We have to think differently of how we're going to make ourselves new and renewed and regenerative. So great ideas, MJ and Peter. Thank you. Talk about upskilling. How does upskilling work and what are the best ways to do it? This is a big topic. So MJ, I'm going to start with you on this one.
So this is for anybody who's been out of the workforce for a certain period of time and wants to get back in, or somebody who's doing a job pivot, or somebody who wants to get into an industry that is requiring experience that you don't have. Upskilling work is learning about a new profession with hands-on experience in the best way possible. And this means a lot of different things. This means actual book learning. So go and take a course, get a certification, go sit in a classroom, something that is tangible, that you can say, I am certified in this. I am, I am taking a class on this, something really tangible. The other thing is that you can go and volunteer, or you can do an internship, or you can get a mentor-mentee relationship going. So maybe I have been out of the workforce because I am a mom and I want to get back into the workforce. I haven't lost any of my knowledge in my brain, but it's not current. And here's what I'm going to tell you. The knowledge that is in your brain, some of it is relevant to today and some of it is not if it's more than 6 months old. And so a really good way is to volunteer at a nonprofit organization in the type of position that you are wanting to pivot into. So there are a ton of nonprofit organizations in the state of Colorado. They're always looking for volunteers, and you can put that on your resume. I did a volunteer opportunity for 6 months where I have on-the-job training. I was actually hands-on doing this. You can get a mentor-mentee relationship. You can open up a GitHub and put things in there. So upskilling is going above and beyond your day-to-day job to learn specific skills to be able to put them on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile as either a tangible certification or course or something of that nature, or on the job hands-on training, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, MJ. Peter.
I agree with what she said a lot on that. One thing I'll add is a lot of people don't know with the Colorado workforce system, you have about $5,000 of upskilling almost for every individual. So for all the sectors that are in need of upskilling, which a lot of sectors are, you can have educational credits. And even if you want to do formal training at a school, it's paid by the government for upskilling. So there are options out there. Programs cost money. And I think a lot of people just don't know this money's out there for people to grow. And that's sort of what we talk about. Like, because the technology, I was reading a stat the other day that an engineering degree 10 years ago used to last for 6 years. Now, if you graduate with an engineering degree, it lasts for 6 months of knowledge. It changes so fast. And it's not saying that degree is not worth stuff, but sort of what MJ says, like you always have to learn more. Like things are evolving at a quicker rate than we ever have, which is exciting, but also overwhelming. But there's so much stuff out there, and also people realize that constant education is out there and needed to stay competitive and understand. Like I saw somebody, was talking about, like, I've been out of the workforce for 14 years. Like that's understandable. Or some companies are just not. Some people work at a company for 14 years and they just weren't exposed to much. So there is a lot of options out there, and I just think reaching out and I can help point in the right direction. But the workforce centers are there for. It's a great resource that offer a ton of it. Online has a ton of free resources. So just sky's the limit. The worst thing I see is when someone comes up and they're like, I didn't do it. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I didn't want to.
There's a lot of questions in the chat around this. How would someone access information in the government funding? And should they go to the Colorado workforce and ask questions, or did they call them? Or what's the best way to leverage that process, Peter?
Good question. So each county has a workforce. You can go to your local county, but you can also go to whichever one is closest to you too. You can give them a call, or I always say the best way though with government is to go in person, because that you'll get a response and everything, and you can talk to a live real human, which I think it makes the biggest difference. But go there in person, just say, I want to talk about upskilling opportunities, and they'll say, here's our they'll tell you what you can and can't do.
You can actually also go down to the registration office for your local community colleges, whether that's Front Range Community Colleges, Metro. They have a lot of upskilling programs, courses that are free. Amount of grant money set aside. There are hundreds of millions of dollars of grant money that go unused every single year because people just don't know about them. And the way that you get more information is to go down there. I agree with Peter. The best way to find a real person to get all of your questions answered is to actually go. Go down to the registrar's office, ask them about upskilling classes, free courses, grant subsidied courses, and they'll tell you.
Awesome. There's two ideas that I just want to elaborate on a little bit. I have a client, 58, who was an appraiser in California, and he does not want to stay in appraising. So he started volunteering for a hospice group here in Denver and got to know the leaders. And he's now interviewing for a finance analyst position. So MJ's idea of volunteering, I just wanted to give an example of that. The other thing I wanted to point out with upskilling is there's this thing called quiet hiring. Many companies out there are upskilling their own employees or reallocating work because they are known, those employees are known entities, right? And so when you hear about quiet hiring, it just means a reallocation or upskilling of the current workforce. But that means that burnout and stress and leaders having that burnout, that is huge right now. And you'll see a lot more of that. So I know I went from upskilling into a different area that maybe shows a little bit about my ADHD of hopping into other topics, but I hope this topic, we've given you some golden nuggets on that. Let's go to the next slide, which is what is quiet hiring and how does it affect me? So like I was saying, quiet hiring can be leveraged with companies upskilling. So Peter, how are you seeing quiet hiring affecting candidates that you're talking with? Or how are your employers that you partner with leveraging quiet hiring?
Good question. So this has changed, and I think that one group that was really good was the IT sector would pay for employees education in the very beginning, because they realized that employees cannot get all their education or all their knowledge at one company, but the cost of turnover is astronomical. And companies are getting smart, partially because the market is really hard to find good employees, but also realizing that helping pay for education or helping upskill and train people is a great investment, and it's showing that. So that's where I am seeing companies that are doing a good job with this, and employees that are feeling engaged. Because an engaged employee and a valued employee is going to produce and be valued and stay there exponentially. And ones that are not are losing talent. And that trend is starting in tech. I'm seeing it in engineering, I'm seeing it in manufacturing, I'm seeing it in healthcare, all other sectors, because they realize that this small investment, I mean, look how Starbucks pays for education through things. I mean, they don't need college graduates to do baristas, but they know if they put this through, they get this through, and they get a dedicated employee to stay long term. And people, I know employees that go there and have their remote college doing that. It's brilliant. I think it's a very smart thing, but you're seeing a lot of companies do that because it's a win-win. It's financial, but it's also a benefit.
MJ.
Quiet hiring actually means something really different to me.
Awesome, please.
So quiet hiring for me is that I post positions for open roles I have, and then I don't review applicants, which means that your LinkedIn profile is wildly more important than your resume. And here's why. I'm getting, like I said, thousands of applications every week. Some weeks for some of my roles, I'll get 7,000 applications. And it would take me hours upon hours. It would take me weeks to go through all of those applications. And I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so while I have this position posted online, I'm actually quietly going out to LinkedIn and sourcing passive candidates and engaging them, and never reviewing any of these applications, because I'm looking at the ROI of my time. I already know that 90% of the people that applied to this and to be able to go through the applications. And so I am quietly running a parallel search on the back end, actually looking for candidates.
Thank you. That's great. So different definition. And really good advice from both Peter and MJ on that one. Okay, I know we're bringing you lots of different topics, but our hope is that we're giving you enough information to look at AD Works, or when you're hearing about these topics, to really understand what it is, but also to understand from the recruiter's perspective how to be more impactful on those different areas. The next question we have is, I am so burned out or stressed from the job search or in my role right now. How do I best manage my stress? Now, I'm going to start talking about this. I recently was doing some research on burnout and stress in the workplace. And just between 2020 and 2021, stress increased by 13.1%. This past year, looking at Wall Street Journal and Forbes and Zippia, which is a career expert site, that has increased to more than, it's 60% of people, and that might even be low, are burnt out or stressed because of all of the changes in the economy. As we've talked about, Peter's example of an engineering degree in the past was used to be good for 6 years. Now it's good for 6 months. Human brains do not evolve that quickly as technology does. So for us, it creates burnout, it creates stress, overwhelm, being undervalued, fear, etc. And so how many of you are feeling that way right now or have in the past? Christina, I see that you're, well, don't forget that hiring managers are too. Leaders are some of the most, mid-managers are some of the most burnt out right now. So how do you handle it? MJ, what are some things that Samsara is doing to help its employees with
So,
burnout?
we have a couple of things. First of all, Samsara hires people and allows them to work from where and when they are most productive. And so, my brain works differently than other people's brains. And so I get a lot of work done from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then I really need to go and work out. And so I work out for 2 hours. And then I've, got to get things ready for my 2-year-old, and I have to do all of these things. I have some meetings, but then after I put my 2-year-old to bed, I get a ton of work done from 8:00 p.m. to 11:00 p.m. Right. And my company allows me to do that. And so if I wasn't doing that, because my brain is not productive during the day, for other companies, I would still technically be working those hours. I just wouldn't be getting anything done. And that's how I burn out. A couple of things that I want to remind you, if you are a job seeker, is to put limitations and actual physical distance on yourself in the way that you would if you were an employee. And so if you are going to apply for jobs or interview for jobs, make sure that you're doing it in normal business hours. Make sure that after normal business hours, you close your laptop and you are unplugging. Don't apply for things at 2:00 in the morning, because it's not going to be successful. Make sure that you are moving your body. Exercise for me is very, very, very important. And it's very good for my mental well-being, for my work persona, for everything. And so make sure that you're going outside and moving your body. Make sure that you're doing all of the things that make you be at your best, and then put parameters on everything else. I don't take phone calls in hours that I'm not productive, because I know it's not going to be a good phone call. I don't do interviews. I don't do meetings. And so set those parameters and limitations on yourself. And make sure that you're sprinkling in certain things. If you are wanting to upskill and you're looking at volunteer opportunities, volunteer for things that give you great joy, whether that's with a dog rescue or a school or whatever the case may be. Make sure that it's pouring into you while you're learning and taking away from it whatever you need to learn and take away.
I love that. I also have to work out, and movement is actually part of my personal values. Get out and walk, even though the air quality is kind of bad today, be careful. That movement of some way is super important. Peter, how about from you?
I think there's different options out there. I think where MJ's job allows her to be that, I think that's really cool. Some things, I think there's some jobs that the 8 to 5 is there and you have to work around it, whether you can fit in that mold or not. And I think I agree with quitting time. I agree with in those areas, and I agree with how you, like, even all the boards I sit on, I have, like, my heart feels good of what I get to learn and get back. I think you have to be very valuable of your time. But knowing, and also just being vulnerable and talking about it. The worst thing we've learned through this pandemic is isolation, and how much isolation can cause more mental stress than so much of things. And being vulnerable and talking about these things, and even on LinkedIn, I've seen people more talking about, hey, this is hard for looking for jobs and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, it is. It's very hard. It's stressful. There's a lot of people that will want to talk with you, like just being open and transparent. You don't need to overly throw up, like to make a soap opera on LinkedIn, please no. Because as recruiters, we can see all your activity you post. You want to make sure you keep it somewhat professional. But be open, know that it's real to have these things. And I agree with the volunteering side. And I was even looking at what MJ put out there, like the volunteering out there, like good people connect with good people. And it's amazing how many people in Denver like want to help each other out. And just staying connected to different organizations is so important. And just working through those things that motivate you through different things. Not always work is the end all be all. I know you have to have it to pay bills, totally get it, but know there's other things out there without a doubt.
Awesome. What are some things the audience is doing to help with this stress and or burnout? Because we know rejections suck. We understand. We are recruiters. We know too that candidate care is super important. And I saw one of our members today on the call put something out about, some recruiters, they ghost. And, we try to be better with that and that communication piece. But think about what MJ said, 7,000 applicants in a week. So just have some sympathy or empathy for the recruiters as well. But we do know how important that is. Something that I do that some of the people on the call have been is I do a cohort called Positive Intelligence. This helps bring down that inner critic and that judge that creates that burnout and that stress. And what I can tell you is most of my clients that have taken Positive Intelligence feel better. They have less stress. They're not going at their job search from the perspective of fear, or they're leaning more into their wisdom and their faith. So I just wanted to let all of you know that I'm going to be doing a cohort starting on June 12th. I've taken over 90 people through this program. Some of the people through on this call have gone through that. MJ, you're smiling. I don't care what. It's very powerful. I don't care if you use Mind Valley, if you're on Positive Intelligence. Mindfulness is absolutely important during this time. If that works through Positive Intelligence and you're interested in joining us, June 5th, we are having an info session around that. You can go to my website, bestyoutalentadvisors.com/positive intelligence, and apply for our next cohort. That will include some coaching sessions from me. And if any of my clients that are out there now just want to give a plug on how it's helped you in the chat, that would be awesome. But no matter what you do, make sure that you have a community, that you're moving, that you're aligning with your values, and that you're listening to those free trainings at Udemy. And if I'm not pronouncing that all right, that's okay. LinkedIn, AdWorks, YouTube pages, many events that are captured on video. Go out to our YouTube page. Yvette, if you want to put that out there, we have how do you optimize your LinkedIn? We have things on stop job posting and go after those 10. It explains more on how you do it. So we're coming up to 12:57. We are here until 1. Are there any questions for Peter or MJ and I? Brenda, thank you. Not only did I learn great skills, I connected with some great women who are in her cohort. Awesome, thank you. MJ, thank you so much for putting in the Muse and built in. We were just
Kim had a question. She was raising her hand.
An article. Go ahead. Who has a question?
I do. It's Kim.
Kim.
Hello.
Hello.
So MJ, you had mentioned to apply for those jobs in the industries. So like I'm in account management, sales, key account management. So I always look at the jobs in those industries or whatever industry. I'm in healthcare, but I'm open to other industries, and I always want industry experience.
Typically, when they say industry experience, what they're actually saying is they want SaaS experience or product experience or experience selling services. They're not actually asking you to have experience in selling their product. There's a different way that you sell a product versus a service versus a SaaS. Now I could be wrong, but in my experience of recruiting, we have not necessarily eliminated somebody because they didn't have experience in our industry.
Well, like if they say SaaS, I mean, I just like move on. I mean, but they'll sometimes say we want people with industry from the food industry or experience from the whatever industry. They will specifically say you go ahead and apply anyway.
You can apply anyway. Your LinkedIn profile is always going to be more valuable than an application. And so connect with the recruiters at the
And I do
companies
it all
you're
the time,
interested
and
with.
90%
See
of
if
the
you,
time they don't respond.
I try really hard to respond. I think there's good recruiters and lazy recruiters, and I think there's good recruiters and overwhelmed recruiters. I would say you're doing the right things. You have all of the tools, they were specific, to them knowledge, and you don't have that. I would probably move
And then
on.
my next question, so there's a lot of jobs out there, and I'm not having a problem getting interviews, but when I'm finding, would you agree there's a lot of jobs, but there's a lot of applicants? Well, there must be if you're getting 7,000 applicants for one job. So is that what this market is right now? Lots of jobs, but lots of applicants? I mean,
Yep.
and Peter, would you say the same thing?
It depends on the job. Like I'd say nursing, like the skills that are maybe not fully remote have not enough applicants. Like I have a lot of specific skills that I can't get enough applicants, and all of ours are active candidate searches. So it really depends on the skill, in my opinion, and the company and the job.
And my industry is healthcare. I mean, 90% of what I'm applying for is healthcare, sales, account management, business development, that not clinical.
So think of healthcare in different ways. Think about stem cell research. Think about right now, in vitro fertilization is booming, right? So think about your healthcare experience and how that translates into industries that are going to be around in the next 100 years.
Pain management clinics, ODT, opioid. Getting off, I just got a few more ideas for you, so let's connect offline.
Okay.
Good questions, everyone. What other questions are there out there? I can stay in a few minutes. MJ, I'm not sure, or Peter, I'm not sure if you can.
I have 5.
MJ had to jump to another meeting.
Okay. All right. Our hope is that you will help us spread the word for Colorado Career Connectors, that you got some nuggets that will help you have a motivated and productive week. We will have the recording on this out there within the next 24 hours. I'd like to thank Peter and Megan Jo. I will be speaking live on May 31st. If you're interested in positive intelligence, please join us on June 5th. But Colorado Career Connectors is actually going to take a break this summer. We are retooling and reinvigorating our mission, our vision, our values. We're going to bring more live events to you this fall. So keep on the lookout for our newsletters and tips and updates. We might have some pop-up events in the summer, but as of right now, we are going to take a break. Enjoy your summer, lean into movement and your true values, and know that Peter or MJ and I are here to help when you need it. And there's some other recruiters on here as well. Please interact with each other, join a success team or a job club. And if Colorado Career Connectors can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to Yvette or me, and we will absolutely get back with you. Lisa Carmen, thank you so much for joining us. She is our resident LinkedIn and resume expert. Really nice to see all of you. Take care and have a great day. Thank you. Bye.